It was a warm afternoon, and I was walking down the street, minding my own business after a busy day, when I spotted a young boy standing alone by the sidewalk. Something about the way he stood there caught my attention. He was small, maybe around 8 or 9, and his clothes were ragged, as if they had been worn by someone much older than him. His shoes were scuffed, and his face was a mix of exhaustion and fear. He wasn't crying, but I could tell he was struggling to hold it together. I didn't want to make assumptions, but the look in his eyes made my heart ache. This wasn't a child who was out here playing with friends. He looked lost, alone, and out of place in this part of town. Before I could get closer to ask if he needed help, a police car pulled up. Officer Stevens, a familiar figure in our neighborhood, stepped out. Everyone in the community knew him, but no one particularly liked him. He had a reputation for being harsh and quick to judge. It seemed like he was always ready to use his authority to put someone down, and from the look on his face, I could tell he wasn't about to give this boy any mercy. "Hey, what's your problem, kid?" Officer Stevens barked as he approached the boy. There was no concern in his voice, only a cold, dismissive tone. The boy flinched, startled by the harshness in the officer's voice. I'm looking for my mom, sir," the boy stammered. "I got separated from her at the store. I don't know where she went." Instead of offering comfort, or even showing the slightest bit of understanding, Officer Stevens sneered. "Lost her, huh?" "Sure, you did. How convenient." He stepped closer, leaning down to get in the boy's face. "What kind of kid gets lost like this? You're probably just making up a story, aren't you?" The boy trembled. His eyes were wide with fear, and he took a step back, his small frame unable to escape the imposing figure of the officer. "No, sir," he said softly, his voice breaking. "I'm not lying. I just want to find my mom." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Here was a terrified child, desperately trying to explain himself, and Officer Stevens wasn't even trying to help. He was making the situation worse, belittling the boy for something that was beyond his control. "Stop crying and get in the car," the officer snapped, grabbing the boy roughly by the arm. The boy winced, his face crumpling with confusion and fear. Officer Stevens was dragging him toward his squad car, as if the boy was some kind of criminal. I couldn't stand by and watch this any longer. I knew I had to do something. But before I could act, a sleek black car pulled up with the sound of its engine humming smoothly to a stop. A tall, well-dressed man stepped out, looking calm and composed. He seemed out of place compared to the chaotic scene unfolding. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere. He walked toward the officer, his gaze unwavering. "Let go of him," the man said, his voice calm but firm. There was an authority in his tone that immediately commanded attention. Officer Stevens turned to face him, an annoyed look on his face. "What's your business here?" he asked. "This is none of your concern." The man didn't even flinch at the officer's tone. He glanced down at the boy who was still trembling in Stevens' grip. Then he turned back to the officer and said, "It's not just my concern. It's everyone's concern when someone is being treated like this. Let the boy go." Stevens scowled. "I don't have time for this. This kid's just wandering around, causing trouble. He needs to go with me." The man's eyes narrowed. "You don't even know who you're talking to, do you?" At that moment, I saw Officer Stevens pause, his face faltering for just a moment, like he wasn't sure how to respond. The man didn't give him the chance to say anything else. "This boy is the son of Robert Harris, one of the wealthiest and most influential businessmen in this city. He's been missing for just a few hours, and I've been looking for him." I saw the color drain from Officer Stevens' face as he absorbed the weight of the man's words. He opened his mouth to say something, but no sound came out. The man continued, his voice steady and full of authority. "You've already made a mistake. The boy's father will be here soon, and I don't think you'll want to explain yourself when he finds out what you've done." I could see the panic in Stevens' eyes now. He had just learned that the child he had been bullying wasn't just an ordinary boy. He was the son of a very powerful man. The officer's arrogance and harshness suddenly seemed so misplaced. The man turned to the boy and, with a comforting smile, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're safe now. Let's get you back to your father." The boy, who had been so terrified only moments ago, looked up at him, relief spreading across his face. Stevens, still trying to process the situation, stammered, I didn't know who he was. The man didn't let him off the hook that easily. That's not an excuse. You've treated him poorly when all he needed was help. You'll have to answer for this. His words were not filled with anger, but with a quiet, undeniable authority that left Stevens speechless. The boy's father arrived shortly after in his luxury car, visibly relieved to see his son safe. The reunion was emotional. The boy ran into his father's arms, and I could see the tears in the businessman's eyes as he thanked the man who had found his son. There was no hesitation in his words as he made it clear that Officer Stevens would be facing consequences for his actions. The officer's career was about to take a very different turn. As the boy and his father drove away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice, a feeling that things were finally right. Officer Stevens had crossed a line, and now he was going to pay for it. He had bullied a helpless child, and now he was facing the consequences of his actions. I watched the officer as he stood there, his face a mixture of anger, humiliation, and regret. He had learned the hard way that power and authority mean nothing when you treat others with cruelty. His actions had led him straight into karma's grasp, and it was something he would never forget. The little boy wasn't just any child. His identity was far more than Officer Stevens had ever imagined. And that lesson, of kindness, empathy, and humility, was one that would stay with all of us forever. Hey everyone, I really hope you enjoyed today's story. It was an emotional one, and I hope it sparked some thought about kindness, empathy, and the impact our actions have on others. If it touched your heart or made you think, please show your support by hitting that like button. It means a lot to me and helps the channel grow so I can bring you more inspiring stories. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. What did you think of the story? Do you think the officer learned his lesson? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Your feedback always helps me create better content for you. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on any of the stories I share that aim to inspire and bring positivity into your life. We're building a community here, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. And if this story really made an impact, make sure to share it with your friends and family. Together, we can spread these powerful messages and make the world a little bit kinder. One story at a time. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Let's keep growing, learning, and sharing.